Gypsy chick.
Hey y'all, it's Gypsy. A few weeks back, possibly a couple of months back, I did a video on Witchy Haul and a couple of different things. And in it I mentioned this craft that I was going to work on, which was making some tarot bags using this book that I got called Witchy Crafts. So here's what the book looks like. I got it off of Amazon. It's by Lexa Olick, and it's full of really cool stuff. I'm going to probably do more of them as the year goes on with the girls, but as of yet, I've only done one, which is the tarot bag. It's a cool idea. She uses ribbon, kind of like this, to basically weave together and make this bag out of it. I've made several of them, and I got to tell you guys, the craft is great. The instructions are pretty good. But I'm going to tell you now, go into it with the attitude that you will need to make more than one. Your first one will probably not come out, especially if you're not a big sewer like me. I'm not a huge sewer. I can sew on a button. I can mend things, but that's about the extent of it, and it's probably not going to be real pretty, but it's functional. So consequently, my very first bag, it's pretty rough looking. The stitching it's like a Franken bag, if you can see on the side. I mean, the front, it just looks terrible along here. I didn't do a real good job. This was my first attempt at the tarot bag. I used a green fabric on the inside. These snaps are awesome. They have magnets, they're magnetized. Very cool. This is actually a pendant that we bought at the store, and then my daughter clipped the little thing off of it that it hung by. She made us matching necklaces that we both wore for a while, but the metal, I mean, they're cheap, and the metal started to kind of degrade, so we decided we didn't want to wear them anymore. The tassel, there's also instructions on how to make that inside the book. It is kind of cool. The book kind of gives you a couple of basic stitches. It shows you how to make little accessory things, kind of like this little tassel. So I have nothing but good things to say about the book. In regards to making this tarot bag, I would tell you that it seems like in the book it says you can use any size of ribbon. I'm thinking that 7/8 to 1 inch thick ribbon is probably the best way to go. So if you decide you want to make this, most ribbon is 7/8 inches, which is what this is. I used these 4 colors for my most recent bag because I love the little owls. Aren't they cute? I love owls. So anyway, and then I also used, I'll get ahead of myself. The second bag that I made was much better. This is it right here. This is Goose. But still, there were parts where I didn't cut the ribbon quite long enough. So this happened. So it's better to cut your ribbon a little longer than you need it rather than trying to get it right on. By the time I made the third one, which is this one, I had kind of gotten it figured out a little bit better. Again, my stitching is not real good. You can see here where I had to leave the space. You know, in the future, I'll probably make that space like this end part so that you don't see it. Because this is all pretty. I have my Joie de Vivre tarot in here. But this was my third attempt, third time's the charm. I think this one turned out much better than the other two. It just takes time, be patient with yourself because it's not, like I said, I'm not a big sewer. If you're somewhat of a seamstress, this is probably like a complete idiot project, but some of us are not so fast. Some of us need to practice and do it over and over again. I'm thinking by the time I do the 4th bag, I will have learned enough to make this a little prettier. But anyway, here's basically the 2 bags that I created using this weaving technique from the Witchy Crafts book. You basically put it together using this interfacing, this fusible interfacing. It looks like a dryer sheet. I got it at Joann's fabric store. They had it, by the counter, by the fabric counter. They had like a whole rack of it. So, any kind of fabric store, I'm sure, is going to have that kind of stuff. And then you also use this webbing tape that you put in behind the ribbons because as you're weaving these together, you weave it all together and then you iron it. So you've got to have this webbing stuff. And then you're going to need some kind of a piece of fabric This is some that we had to make aprons with, and I haven't learned how to do that yet, so we're kind of using it for these tarot bags. But you just have this one long strip, and then you cut your ribbon into little strips like this. These are the ribbons that go across this way when you're weaving the ribbons back and forth. You also have some longer ones that you that are like, I think, 16 inches long. But again, you know, if you have a deck, you know, you might have to adjust it depending on how big your deck is. This is for an oracle deck, and as you can tell, it's a little wider than, you know, of course, well, no, it's not. This is a fatter deck, so it takes up more space. This is my Joie de Vivre tarot that I keep in here because it's bright colored and I like the, you know, backing, and so it just kind of matches, so I put it all in here. For the tassel, there's a thicker type of string that you can get. It's like where the, you know, you used to make friendship bracelets back in the 90s where everybody was doing that. It's the same kind of string that you make the tassels out of. You want it to be a little bit thicker string than what you sew with. Now, I used a really, really thin thread for the stitching on the side. I don't know if you can see that. I'm not real good at stitching. Don't go too thin. This stuff is crap, and it was really hard to sew with. It kept breaking on me because you're going through ribbon and a couple layers of things. You kind of have to pull it hard, and there were several times where my string broke because it just wasn't strong enough to handle the, you know, the sewing. So make sure you get, you know, not this thick, but get a thread that's thicker than dental, you know, than, I mean, this stuff is like super duper thin. Get something, I think it's like, that's like for a sewing machine. I don't recommend that. Get something a little bit thicker with a little more weight to it. I wish I had the numbers for the stuff, but I don't. I don't have, it was basically just some stuff we had in the sewing kit. So, you know, make sure you've got something that's going to be thick enough to handle a little bit of pull whenever you're pulling it through the fabric and the ribbon and the interfacing and all of the stuff. Because whenever you fuse it together like that, it does kind of get a little bit of a thickness to it. It gets a little tougher. So keep that in mind. It's not a real hard project. It is a little bit time consuming. I was thinking about making these and selling them on my Etsy shop, but to be honest, it just takes too much time, and, you know, in order to recover basically my time and my supplies for what I'm spending on these bags, it's not going to be something anybody's going to want to buy. You'd just be better off buying the book and making your own tarot bags. You know, because once you go and you buy the ribbon and you buy the interfacing and you get all the stuff to make it, you get your little pendant, and then the time, I mean, it took me like 3 or 4 hours to make a bag. So I'm not really trying to do that on a mass quantity type basis because I only have so much time in a day. And since I do have a full-time job already, making tarot bags is not really something that I plan to do, you know, very often. I do like them, and I'm going to continue to make them for myself, but don't be looking for them on my Etsy page because I ain't going to be selling them. But anyway, that is our witchy craft that we've been making. Got it out of the Witchy Crafts book. And I do plan on making some more items later. I really like this chalice, so I want to find out what the scoop is on the chalice because I think that would be really handy. And then they also have these little Book of Shadows here. I'd kind of like to make those also because I think they're kind of handy. And of course they have poppets that you can make that are very, very simple. There are just so many cool ideas in here. So yes, this year, 2014, I will be making more things. If you guys want me to, I'll post what we make, you know, so that you can see kind of how our stuff turns out. And I guess that's all I had to share with you right now. You guys have a great weekend. Blessed be.